Today we are entering one of the deepest and most difficult questions in philosophy. Do we truly have free will, or is everything determined? On one side is Baruch Spinoza, the Dutch philosopher who believed that all things in nature follow necessary laws, and that what we call free will is only an illusion caused by ignorance of the true causes of our actions. On the other side is William James, the American philosopher and psychologist, who believed that free will is real, and that without it, human life loses its meaning and its moral foundation. Let us begin with the first act, where both will explain what freedom really means.
When people speak of freedom, they often mean the ability to choose between different possibilities. They say, "I could have done otherwise," but I must explain why this belief is a mistake. Everything in the universe follows from necessity. God, or nature as I call it, exists with infinite perfection, and from this perfection flows every event, every action, every thought. Nothing is random. Nothing is outside of this order. Human beings are part of nature, and just like stones, fall by the necessity of gravity, so to do our thoughts and desires arise from causes beyond our control. What people call free will is simply their awareness of their actions, without awareness of the causes behind them. For example, when a child throws a stone, he thinks he freely chose to do so. But if he understood all the reasons, the desires, the impulses, the circumstances, he would see that it could not have been otherwise. Freedom, in the common sense, is therefore an illusion born of ignorance.
I cannot accept such a view, because it denies the very heart of human experience. When I act, when I decide, I do not feel like a stone falling or a machine being wound up. I feel the strain of possibilities, the effort of choosing, the moment of decision. That experience is not mere ignorance, it is as real a fact as anything science can measure. If you tell a person that their choice is an illusion, you take away the foundation of responsibility, of moral struggle, of hope. You make life a script already written, a story we only watch but never write. But this is not how we live. We live as beings who face real alternatives, and who must decide. To dismiss this as an illusion is not philosophy, it is blindness to the most intimate facts of human life, herefore an illusion born of ignorance.
You mistake the matter. To know that all things are determined is not to destroy human dignity, but to explain it rightly. You imagine freedom as a power to break from nature, to create choices that are not bound by cause. But such a power would be nothing but chaos. True freedom is not random choice. True freedom is understanding. When a person acts from reason, guided by knowledge of themselves and of the world, they are more free than the person who acts from passion and confusion. Consider a man who is angry. He strikes another, believing he freely chose to do so. But, in reality, he is a slave to his passion. Now consider another who understands his anger, who restrains it, who acts from calm reason. His act too follows necessity, but it flows from his true nature, not from blind impulse. That is real freedom. Not the power to do otherwise, but the power to act from the essence of your being, guided by knowledge.
But what you describe strips freedom of the very meaning people live by. Freedom is not simply calm reason, nor is it only understanding. Freedom is the sense that, here and now, I can choose, that my future is not yet fixed, but shaped by my action. This is not chaos. It is responsibility. It is what makes me human. I have argued that the truth of an idea lies in its consequences. Now, consider the consequences of belief in determinism versus belief in free will. If people believe they are determined, they may fall into passivity. They will think, whatever happens must happen, so my efforts are useless. But if people believe in free will, they feel responsible. They strive, they risk, they hope. That belief gives life energy. It sustains morality and effort. For me, this is proof enough. The belief in free will is not only necessary for life, but is more true to the way we live and act.
Now that we have heard how each philosopher defines freedom, let us turn to the question of responsibility. If all our actions are determined, can we still be blamed or praised for what we do? Or does real responsibility require real choice?
Let us think carefully. Many fear that determinism destroys responsibility. They imagine that if everything follows from necessity, then punishment, reward, or judgment no longer have meaning. But this is a mistake. Responsibility is not removed. By determinism is explained by it. A human being acts from their nature. That nature is shaped by desires, by habits, by knowledge, by passions, by countless causes. When someone acts from ignorance or from harmful passions, they produce destructive actions. Society responds with laws, with punishments, with education, all of which are themselves causes shaping human behavior. This chain does not end, it continues. So responsibility is simply the recognition that a person acts from their own nature, and that their actions, good or bad, must be met with causes that improve, guide, or restrain them. If someone commits a crime, they did so by necessity. But society also, by necessity, punishes them. Both are parts of nature's order. There is no contradiction here.
But you take away the very thing that makes morality human. To say the soldier could not have done otherwise is to strip his act of the weight of decision. His bravery is noble precisely because he might have chosen safety but chose sacrifice. Instead, the same is true for the criminal. When we punish, it is not only to shape behavior, it is also to affirm that he should have acted otherwise. This is the language of duty, of obligation, of morality itself. Your determinism makes responsibility into a machine of causes and effects. But human beings do not live as machines. We live as agents who must decide. Our whole inner life, the sense of regret, the pride of achievement, the call of conscience depends on the belief that we truly could have chosen differently. Without that belief, morality loses its meaning, and life loses its dignity.
I understand why you resist this, but you misinterpret what it means to see people through necessity. To say that a soldier's courage follows necessity is not to remove nobility. His act flows from the perfection of his nature, from the strength of his reason, from the power of his love for his comrades. That he could not have done otherwise does not diminish his greatness. It shows that his greatness was part of the order of nature, and the criminal, too, acts from his nature. Punishment is not blind control. It is a cause to change the criminal's future actions, to improve his understanding, to protect society. This is more rational and more compassionate than the idea of absolute blame. For if a man could act with no cause, then his actions would be random, and random acts deserve neither blame nor praise. Only necessity makes morality real.
But here is the problem. If everything is necessity, then when we blame or punish, we are simply striking one stone with another. Responsibility then has no true moral weight, it is just mechanics. Yet when I hold someone accountable, I believe they could have chosen differently. This belief is the heart of morality. Without it, justice collapses into mere control, and praise becomes meaningless. Think of the soldier who risks his life to save his comrades. If determinism is true, he could not have done otherwise, he was driven by necessity. Then where is the nobility of his act? Or think of the criminal who harms others. If he could not have done otherwise, then punishment is not about justice, but only about control. We reduce people to machines, but people are not machines. Responsibility means real alternatives, and without free will, those alternatives disappear.
So far, Spinoza has argued that freedom is only understanding necessity, and James has defended the lived reality of choice. Now we turn to science. Does modern knowledge support the idea of a determined universe, or does it leave room for free will? Dignity.
When we look at the progress of science, we see confirmation of my view. The more knowledge grows, the more we see the order of causes. Centuries ago, men believed the heavens moved by divine whim. But now we know the planets follow necessary laws. Once people thought sickness was chance or punishment, but now we see causes in the body, in germs, in natural processes. Everywhere, science replaces chance with law. Why should the human mind and will be different? A thought arises because of prior causes, habits of the body, memories of the past, impressions of the world. A desire grows from earlier desires, shaped by the environment. If we knew all the conditions, we could predict each action, just as we predict an eclipse. Science reveals not freedom, but necessity. And the more we understand, the clearer this necessity becomes.
Science has indeed discovered laws, but it has not explained away the will. You say that because science finds causes, freedom disappears. But I say that science must also respect experience. When I observe myself deciding, I feel conflict. I feel hesitation, the weighing of reasons, the strain of effort, and finally the act of choice. These are not illusions. They are part of nature too, part of the reality science must explain. I spent years studying psychology. The will is not a ghost outside nature, it is an experience inside nature. It is the moment when different possibilities are before us, and the effort of attention tips the balance. Science should not deny this, but include it. Otherwise, science is incomplete.
But feelings deceive us. The child feels the sun moving across the sky, but we know it is the earth that moves. In the same way, when you feel choice, you mistake ignorance for freedom. You do not see the causes, so you imagine openness. But if you saw all the causes, your upbringing, your memories, your bodily states, the exact impressions on your senses, you would see that your decision was necessary. Even hesitation and effort have causes. When you feel torn, that feeling arises from conflicting desires, each driven by its own chain of causes. When you finally decide, one cause outweighs the other. You feel you could have chosen otherwise, but in truth, the stronger cause prevailed. That is not freedom. It is necessity experienced through limited knowledge.
And yet, the warmth of the sun is real, even if its motion is not. The experience of choice is real, even if we misunderstand its mechanism. To call it illusion is too simple. Our lives are built on this experience of choosing. It shapes our morality, our creativity, our very sense of self. If science refuses it, then science denies part of reality. Think of a man at a crossroads in life, whether to devote himself to duty or to give in to selfish ease. In that moment, the future is not fixed. His decision makes a difference, not only to himself but to the world. That lived reality cannot be brushed aside as ignorance. It is as much a fact as gravity. Science must learn to include it, or it will never understand the human mind.
We have heard arguments about freedom, responsibility, and science. But philosophy is not only theory, it touches the way we live. What does it mean for human life if everything is determined, or if freedom is real?
Too many, determinism sounds like despair. They imagine that if all things are necessary, then life has no meaning, no purpose, no joy. But I say the opposite is true. When we understand necessity, we find peace. We stop fighting against the order of nature. We stop blaming fortune, or cursing chance, or being consumed by regret. We see that all things follow from the eternal nature of God. This brings calm and strength. Consider how people live when they believe in free will as absolute chance. They hope desperately for what may never come. They fear endlessly what may or may not happen. They regret endlessly, saying, "I could have chosen otherwise." This is bondage. But when you see necessity, you no longer hope in vain, nor fear without cause. You accept, you understand, you act from reason. That is true. Freedom, not to be torn by illusion, but to live in harmony with truth.
But life is not only about calm acceptance. Life is struggle, risk, effort. It is the adventure of making choices. If I believed the future was already written, that my efforts could not change what will be, then my energy would fade. My hopes would die. Why strive, if nothing could ever be different? The belief in freedom gives life meaning. It tells me that my choices matter. It tells me that my struggle is not wasted. Think of the reformer who works to change injustice. If he believed everything was fixed by necessity, he might never fight. But because he believes he can make a difference, he tries, and sometimes he succeeds. This belief is not only practical, it is true to our experience. For in life, we face open possibilities, and our choices carve the path ahead.
You think acceptance weakens us, but it is not so. To understand necessity gives us strength, not weakness. The man who sees the order of nature does not waste himself in vain anger or in endless regret. He understands why things are as they are, and he acts wisely within that order. This is not passivity, is clarity, and there is joy in this. When you understand that all things flow from the divine nature, you rise above petty fears and fleeting hopes. You experience what I have called the intellectual love of God, the deep joy of seeing yourself as part of the eternal order. This is the highest happiness a human can know. Determinism does not kill meaning. It reveals the deepest meaning of all, that everything is necessary, and everything belongs to the whole of nature.
That may bring peace to a philosopher, but to most people it brings paralysis. We are not content to watch life unfold like a clock. We want to believe that what we do makes a difference. When we decide, when we risk, when we struggle, we are shaping the future. This gives our lives passion and purpose. Imagine telling a young person that nothing they choose will ever matter, that every path is already fixed. They would lose heart, but tell them instead that their choices will shape their destiny, that the future is open, and they will rise to the challenge. They will take responsibility. They will dream, they will strive. That is why I defend free will. Not because it is comforting only, but because it is true to the very core of how human beings live and grow. Without it, life becomes a picture, already painted. With it, life is a canvas we are still painting with every stroke.
We have reached the final act. Both Spinoza and James have defended their visions of freedom, responsibility, science, and life. Now we ask for their closing reflections. Is freedom an illusion to be overcome, or is it the foundation of our humanity?
I will end where I began, with the truth that everything in nature is determined. To deny this is to imagine chaos, to imagine effects without causes, to imagine a world ruled by chance. But chance is nothing but ignorance. If we see clearly, we know that all things follow from the eternal necessity of God or nature. From the smallest movement of an atom to the greatest thoughts of the mind, everything flows from this same order. People resist this truth because they fear it takes away their dignity. They wish to believe in absolute freedom, in the power to do otherwise without cause. But such a power would be empty. It would make our actions random, not rational. My view does not destroy human worth, it explains it. A person is great when their nature is strong, when they are guided by reason, when they live in harmony with the order of the world. That too is necessity, but it is the necessity of their true essence. So I say, freedom is not the power to break the chain of causes. Freedom is the knowledge of that chain, the understanding that lets us act from who we truly are and not from blind passions. To see necessity is to love it. To live with this understanding is to know peace, to know joy, and to rise above regret and fear. This is the true freedom of the wise, the intellectual love of God, in which the soul finds eternal, rest.
And I must end with a different vision. I cannot see life as a chain fixed from eternity. When I look at my own mind, when I feel the weight of decision, when I stand before possibilities, I know that the future is not yet written. The moment of choice is real. The effort of will is real, and with it comes responsibility, duty, and hope. My philosophy is pragmatic. The truth of an idea lies in its consequences. What are the consequences of determinism? If people believe that nothing could be otherwise, they risk despair. They lose the fire to act, the courage to strive, the belief that their choices matter. But the belief in free will brings the opposite. It inspires responsibility, gives meaning to sacrifice, and drives human progress. It tells each of us, the world is not finished, and you are part of its making. This is not only useful, it is true. It matches the reality of our inner life, where we feel alternatives and choose between them. It matches the moral life, where duty means we should have acted otherwise. It matches the human heart, which lives in hope and effort. Freedom is not an illusion, it is the very ground of our existence.
Still, I must insist that what you call freedom is only the shadow of ignorance. You believe you shape the future, but in truth you are part of the eternal unfolding. This is not despair, but liberation. For when you see this, you are no longer bound by regret, nor tossed about by fear. You accept yourself as part of the whole of nature. You see that everything, even your striving, even your dreams, are expressions of the divine necessity. This vision is higher than the restless belief in chance. It gives a peace that no struggle can disturb. It reveals joy not in illusions of control, but in the eternal order itself. This is why I say, there is no free will, but there is freedom. Freedom of the mind that understands, and in that understanding, loves necessity.
And I, in turn, insist that to live as human is to live as if freedom is real, because it is real. You may call it ignorance, but it is the very substance of our experience. We do not simply watch a play already written. We write it with our choices. Each decision is a step into the unknown, and in that step lies our dignity. Peace may come from believing that all is fixed, but life is not only about peace. It is about striving, risking, daring. It is about saying, it is up to me, and acting with courage. Without freedom, duty, justice, and hope lose their meaning. With freedom, every moment becomes alive with possibility. I cannot trade this truth for calm acceptance. For me, freedom is the fire of life, and it is what makes us human.
And so, the debate ends. Spinoza shows us a universe of necessity, where freedom means understanding the eternal order and rising above passion into peace. James shows us a world of open choices, where freedom is real and gives life its responsibility and meaning. The question remains, is our will an illusion, or is it the power that makes us human?